Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It may interest you to know. I'm Toni and Marcolini. I have an author with me today. uh, always my favorites. I love to talk to the authors. So, um, we're going to dig right into what is our a debut novel, I want to say, Love, Camera, and Action.
Hmm.
But she has a long history of experience in the entertainment world. She's been in TV production, and she weaves a lot of that, obviously, into the book with that kind of title. So please welcome Noel Stark. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So now you have this book coming out, uh, which is, I think, your debut. Am I
Hmm.
correct?
Yep, that's right.
So it's your first foray into leaving the land of a TV production, which, while all creative, very different, right? I mean,
So yeah,
yeah,
very
it's
different.
something like isolationist about writing a book, I think, because you spend your
Hmm.
time with your own brain in front of a computer. And that's, I think, and I say this all the time, really different than the collaborative process of putting together a TV show or a film,
Hmm.
which involves, not just a writer of a script, but the actors, breathing life into
Hmm.
the story, and the director, and kind of visually weaving you through telling the story. So there's like a lot of hands in that by the time you get to a finished product. This was
Hmm.
just you and your computer singing your song, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was so great about it is I didn't have to take into consideration all those very many voices that you get on a TV or a film crew. Like when you work in TV and film, you have to convince a lot of people that your product or your project is valid. And when it's just you and the screen, you have to just tell yourself that the project is valid, which is its own demon, but yeah, it was a much needed break from the film and TV world.
And it was a really kind of a behind the scenes. It was interesting to me is to get this look because I've read a lot of books that have the entertainment world, of making a show or a movie or
Hmm.
as their background, around their characters of what they're doing. But I often wonder, beyond research, how much experience the authors truly have. There's an enormous, I think, curve uh, you know, of bringing in their own, ideas of what it might look like, as opposed to,
Yeah.
I think, what is the true reality.
Hmm.
But you had that, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because for what it says about the bad behavior, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, there's a lot of bad behavior. I mean, there's a lot of bad behavior in every in
yeah.
every industry, but I think it's heightened in the film and TV industry because the stakes are so high. The deadlines are so intense. There's so much money involved and there's so much ego involved that it just sparks a lot of bad behavior and genius at the same time, So it's a very interesting world. And I agree with you. I'd read a ton of industry kind of entertainment um novels and TV shows and films, and there are a few that go behind the scenes, but usually it's about making the deal or the actors' lives or sometimes the writer's life, but you don't very often see what goes on with the crew, and that's why I wanted to set Love, Camera, Action in the crew, in the nuts and bolts of what it means to shoot something.
And yeah, and the vibe is that you're right there. I will say this, right? I mean, I thought you created a world that I felt like I was voyeuristically hanging out in.
Awesome.
Right?
That's great. Thank you.
And again, it was very different because I've seen other ones where, it's the backdrop for a mystery or a love story or,
Hmm.
whatever the situation may be. But this wasn't that, right? This
No,
was
you're really in it. You're really in the trenches.
Yeah, this was just like, let's go hang out and see what it's like to be in that world. And I'm always
Mhm.
interested in those type no novels, right? That truly give you a peek into the world
Mhm.
as opposed to somebody's idea. I'm a lawyer by trade, and a lot of times I
Mm.
see courtroom stuff and I think, that would never happen. Saying you
Yeah.
never actually get there and like, the judge is, waiting for you at the bench and, you're going
Hmm.
to put your whole case on and it's going to be all, it's nothing like that. It's dribs and
Hmm.
drabs in between. And I mean, the whole thing is different than it's captured. So that to me, anytime I get somebody who truly was in that world and then, any
Hmm.
world, and then they bring that to a fiction piece, I'm really interested in that because that seems to absorb the person in a different way, right? In a way that
Yeah.
lets
Hmm.
you get a genuine vibe and nothing against, because I'm not trying to diminish in any way, the creativity that goes into, picking a world
Hmm.
and immersing yourself. If I was going to write a book about baseball, right? Maybe I would do an enormous amount of research about,
Hmm.
a baseball player, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
be the same. And as the actual player who sits down to write their fiction about their story.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
loved that. I really did love that about the book that I felt like I was there watching it and it rolls along, right? There's just not nobody's sleeping.
No, no. I'm so glad you said that because I really worked hard at that. And it's hard, when you come from those kinds of industries and you're talking about them, it's hard not to get, to use a baseball metaphor, insider baseball about it so that you can't communicate what it's like to other people. So I worked really hard at trying to capture what it's like to be on a set, but make it accessible enough that a tourist per se could come in and feel a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely succeeded. Like I said, there was almost like a voyeur vibe to it, right? I mean, I felt like I was just walking through invisible. Right?
Mm.
Nobody could see me, and I'm just kind of like walking through this situation because it's there's not a lot of that like, oh, there's so much backstory, there's so much, right,
Mhm.
that you're trying to absorb all this information somebody's giving you. It's just like, whoa, you threw us right in, and
Yeah.
then we just keep weaving, like we just
Y-
keep walking through.
Yeah. And that was actually very intentional with my lead character too, who is, her name is Callie. She's a director. She's been thrown in to this production because the prior director has been fired because he said some unfortunate things about the Me Too movement. And they need this woman director, and they get this woman who's kind of from the Bush Leagues, and they need her right away. And she has no time to prep. And she's thrust onto the set, just like you as the reader are thrust into the set right away. So she's on the studio. She's trying to figure out who's who. She almost walks into a guy carrying two by fours that hit her in the head. She's right in there. And from the start, she's just go, 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 go. There is no time to breathe. There is no time to kind of sit and worry about your situation. She's just got to make it work. And that was intentional for the reader's experience as well, to kind of be pulled along in this way.
Yeah, well, you definitely captured that, right? I mean, like I said, nobody sleeps. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just in and we're gonna
Mhm.
go till we drop. Like, we're gonna go
Mhm.
till we hit the last page. I knew that, like 20 pages into the book.
Ah, cool. Good. I'm glad. That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I like variety when I read, and so to me, this was different. It was really different than a lot of the books I've read lately.
What
So
do
I
you usually
appreciated
read?
that. I read everything but science fiction. Right.
Okay.
So I do read mysteries. I mean, I have a
Mhm.
soft spot for the like the Agatha Christie's. They
Yeah.
call them like those kind of old. There's a word
Yeah.
like the cozy mysteries. I sort of
Mm.
have affiliation for that, but I'll read even the modern day thrillers.
Mhm.
My favorite is literary fiction. That's like my
Mm.
absolute jam. I like messy, right? So I
Yeah.
like these, multi-generational, we're finding crap out about everybody and it's all.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
mean, I tend to gravitate towards literary fiction, but I read enjoy everything. I read biographies, I read
Mhm.
history. So I was, interested. I'm always looking for like a new spin or a new, and everything's kind of been done. It's hard to get that. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I'm interested when I see that, and I started right. I was like, okay, she's got this background. What better, right? It's no different than the
Mhm.
lawyer who writes the lawyer, the
Mhm.
legal thriller because that feels more real to me.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing. I was curious and yeah, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was true.
Oh,
I
nice.
got the truth, I got the sense of being there, being involved in it.
Mhm.
I felt like I was just running the whole way through. Like even if I slept, they didn't.
Like they were still, as the book closed, they were still working away.
Yeah. Like I
That's
just felt
funny.
like, okay, they're still going. Like I can pop in, I can pop out. Like, but
Yeah,
they're still
yeah.
going at full steam ahead.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
liked that. I thought you created a very particular vibe.
Mm.
And that I thought was interesting.
Well, thank you. I think, because it's a genre book, it's a romance, it's a rom-com, it's romances follow certain templates, just like mysteries or,
Indeed.
legal thrillers or whatever. And but it's hard to find. I mean, you can't really find a new twist, as you said. It's everything's been done. But I think if you're speaking from an authentic place, that's what gives its newness. That's what breathes life into it, is you come from a very authentic, particular voice, then that's what makes something new or makes it feel like a twist when really it's just like this beat gets hit here, this beat gets hit there. Yes, like you are going by a template. But
Well, it's like the
that's
movies, right? They're more like the cute meat, whatever,
mhm,
they have that
mhm.
formula for how, you know, romance is supposed to go.
Yeah, yeah. And romance novels have the same thing.
Indeed.
So
I mean, I'm
yeah,
not a
yeah.
big, and I should preface this by saying, as a rule, I will read romance, but I'm not a huge romance, person.
Okay. Well, that
For
makes
books. It's not like, oh, I'm waiting for the new, that's typically not my thing, which
right.
is why for me, I need the romance to be mixed with something. Like I
Yeah,
need it to be
yeah,
mixed with a mystery or
yeah.
like you did, like mixed
Yeah.
with this like brand new world that I found interesting.
Yeah, and that's actually the beauty of romance because romance can be in any genre. You can have a sci-fi romance, you can have a historical romance, you can have a Western romance, you can have
Yeah.
fantasy or aliens or whatever. Um, the central part is always the romance, but it can be in any world. And that's what's kind of exciting about it, Like that's what I love about it. You can go cross genres with romance.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Um, and that's for me, that's what I wanted, right? And so I
Hmm.
like that. I can deal with a romance mixed with something else. I prefer that. Just an
Hmm.
ordinary, romantic story. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, it doesn't do much
Yeah.
for me. I prefer the mix.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, okay, it's a backdrop. You're shooting at
Hmm.
people and you're arguing. You know what I mean? Like, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I actually think it has to be very well written for it to
yeah,
be just a plain romance. It has
yeah,
to be almost perfect. I'm
yeah,
very fussy about those kind of romances because they can go wrong quite easily, I think,
yeah.
or they can be
Because they
kind of
come off
boring.
phony, right?
They come off
Yeah,
phony or
yeah,
they're a little bit boring or they're maybe immature. They're much harder to nail. And it's funny, I've had this conversation about romantic comedies in films. It's very easy to go wrong in romantic comedies for films because you don't have the time to really think about how these people are feeling. You don't delve into their emotions like you can in a book. And so then they can come off looking shallow. And so I'm the same way. When I read romance, I love there to be a very strong B plot, if it's werewolves, if it's aliens, if it's a thriller, if it's a mystery. I love that because
yeah,
then the romance can grow because they're trying to solve something. They're trying to solve some puzzle.
yeah.
Hmm.
Right. And I
Hmm.
thought, what was I thought, was pretty cool was interesting to the mindset for me. You have this line, and I'm probably going to kill it, and it's I'm paraphrasing probably, but like
Mm.
there's a line somewhere in it where, you know, she says something along the lines of the love thing wouldn't even allow her proper revenge, right? Like what a drag.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. And I loved that because that, like, to me, hit me like a, well, what more? I thought it captured completely who she was,
Hmm.
right? With that
Hmm.
one line, like, I really thought, like, it said more to me than all the other words put together about who she
I
was as
love
a
that.
person, right? Sometimes I fixate on lines like that I think
Hmm.
really, like,
Hmm.
speak to who the person is.
Yeah, yeah.
I had an author on who wrote something along the lines of, you know, we met and we fell in love on like a molecular level. And as soon as I heard that,
Hmm.
I was like, oh no, like, right there, you're gonna have this woman is gonna be completely obsessed. She believes that, they somehow molecularly
Yeah,
changed when they met each other. This
yeah,
doesn't end well.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I knew that right away, but like I fixate sometimes on lines, and like that to
Hmm.
me was I sort of fixated on it. I was like, oh, that says something about her, like, who she really
Yeah.
is more than anything else.
Like she's begrudging the love that she feels for this guy. And she really, because she's so angry with him, that she really wishes she could screw him over, but she
She's like, it's
can't.
fun, and I love him. I couldn't even do it and enjoy it.
Yeah, she's like, what a drag. Oh,
I
yeah.
really liked that.
Oh God, I'm glad. I like that line too.
So tell me, did you base Callie on somebody? Or is she truly is she a kind of an amalgamation of like a bunch of people you know? Did you base her on one person?
It was my debut novel, so I didn't want to stray too far from what I knew, which was why I also said it in the film world. But she's got a lot of elements of me. I've directed things in scripted, I've directed a lot of reality TV, I've done all sorts of different roles in TV, so I've had a lot of experience on various situations. Now, her backstory is not, it doesn't have anything to do with me at all. It's based on a friend of mine, her situation growing up. And I just it has sort of brushstrokes of how she grew up.
Mm.
And I just thought how hard it would be to grow up in that sort of situation. So, Callie's mom has mental issues. She suffers from depression. So Callie had to make sure that her mom was looked after. She's a single mom and her little sister. And as a result, she had to grow up very fast. And that is, in a way, what makes her such a good director, is that she's so able to pinpoint people's emotional states, people's practical states. She's constantly looking after everyone. She's got her eyes on all the balls that are happening, because that's kind of how she grew up. And it was a tough way to grow up, but it's made her who she is. So although it was sort of like me in the situation of this upbringing, if that makes sense. And then Callie kind of became her own person. Sometimes she'd say things that really surprised me. You hear these writers who are saying, your characters say things that are they become their own people. That line that you were talking about, just kind of like that came out of Callie's mouth. She was like angrily walking down a hallway. She's like, "Oh," and I personally would never think that, but she did. And so it was an amalgamation of myself and these other people that I knew. And I think, I mean, your characters are kind of always like that. It's a cliche. It's a writer cliche that all of your characters are parts of you. But I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, I agree
Hmm.
with that.
Hmm.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting to me occasionally when you get somebody on who's writing about serial killers doing, horrible things. That's always
Hmm.
interesting to me when they're, somewhere deep inside, I don't know where they're
Hmm.
drawing on for that,
Hmm. Hmm.
but because
Hmm.
I think it must involve some drawing from inside when you're writing, I
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's a lot about people who are able to go there, are able to go to that darkness and really think about it. So sort of from an outside perspective, I've worked on true crime shows, like I've written scripts for them and I've shot them. And uh those cops are kind of those people. They can, when they're interrogating these really horrible killers, they have this ability to go down that path with these killers and understand who they are in a way that allows them to catch them.
Yeah,
And it is obviously
interesting.
got a really, really hard road to take. And I think it's very hard on cops. My brother was a cop, so I have a little bit of an insight of what their lives are like. Um, and I know there's lots of issues with cops. We all have,
Mm.
opinions on the police. But yeah, I think that ability to go down those dark roads, like I don't think there's anything wrong with you if you can go down those dark roads, but it's sort of a bravery. It's sort of a way of going into the underworld that not everybody has. And I
Sure.
I really appreciate those people who can do that because I don't know that I can personally.
What did the creative process look like for you? Right. I mean, I've interested a lot of authors who say, I can only write with my fingers moving on a typewriter. That's the only place the characters tell me what to say, and that's all there is to it.
Hmm.
People tell me they have to outline and have everything almost pre-prepared before they
Hmm.
can write. People tell me I only get my ideas when I jog, and so I have to go running in the morning, and that's where all
Hmm.
my ideas come from. What was your process like?
Well, for this book, it was a mishmash of anything that I could put together. Like working in the film and TV industry, it's very hectic, it's very time consuming. And then I'm a single mom on top of that. So it was a scrabble. I was
Yeah.
stealing time whenever I could. I would write on the bus to go to work. I would write in front of my son's taekwondo class. I would wake up early at 5:30 to see if I could squeak out half an hour. It was that kind of thing. And so I was really scrabbling in the dark, trying to figure it out and taking, you know, going on walks when I could with my son and telling him to be quiet for a second while I was jotting an idea down, you know. So once this book was written and I had a little bit of an understanding of what process was, I was able to construct it a bit better and to know, okay, I really am better working in the morning. I can't outline everything, but I have to outline some things. I get a lot of inspiration from, pantsing, from, just writing, but sometimes I hit a wall and I have to go back to research. So I'm kind of still, like, I'm on my third novel now. I've written a second novel that's on submission. And I'm writing my third novel now, and I'm still kind of figuring out what's the process? What's the process? And when you get stuck, I'm like, okay, go back to the beginning, not the beginning of the book, but the beginning of, okay, what was the idea? What was I trying to do here? What am I trying to say? Where's that craft book that I need that help me out? So it's quite a journey. So I don't know if I have that set sort of what's my process answer. Um, I
No,
think
well,
I'm
I
still
mean,
working it out.
I think everybody comes at it differently,
Hmm.
but your story seems to be one of tenacity, right? You figured out a way to do it, and for all the people who say I'd love to write a book, but there's just no time, right? The
Hmm.
moral of that is there never will be for a busy person with responsibilities unless you
Mm-mm.
carve it out somewhere.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's something that I tell myself all the time, and I tell other people, is that there's never any time. There's never this golden time when you're gonna have like 4 weeks of no responsibilities and
At the
pure
cabin.
inspiration at the cabin. And it's like, yeah, that's never gonna happen, because also, say if it does happen, you don't know what to do because you haven't built up the muscle to be able to write, right? You haven't like gone through the trenches of like, okay, I only have half an hour here. What can I bang out? Or I only like I've stowed the kids away somewhere and I know I don't even feel like writing, but I'm going to force myself to because there's no other chance. So you really have to let go of that kind of Thoreau uh, ideal of going to the cabin and having the time to write the great American novel because it's never going to happen, especially in our time now when things are so busy and our attention is just pulled in so many different ways. So if you have to have the tenacity, you have to just keep going.
Any chance of a sequel?
I have a sequel. I started this book thinking of it as a series. And
It could
this
easily, I mean, it could easily be.
Yeah, I thought so. Like the second book I had in mind to follow the actors because the actors are really interesting to me because, she's a very straightforward, thoughtful. She went to Yale. She works really hard on a craft and she's, a person of color, so she's had to really, really fight to get to where she is. And her co-star is this super beautiful guy who just lucked out because he looks exactly like the part that he's playing. And she's bitter about that. She's mad and he's kind of a doof, right? Let's just say it. But the thing is that this guy's terrified. He's terrified because he knows he's landed in this unbelievable job, does not know what he's doing at all, and so then is a doof because that's his way of kind of negotiating the world. So because they were such opposites, I really was thinking of that as a sequel. And then also Melanie, the producer, I really love. She's a lot of fun. So I was thinking of doing something for her because she's also a mom. There's hints in there that she's a mom, and moms hit a lot of roadblocks in the film and TV industry because a lot of people think that they won't be able to focus on their jobs because they'll be too busy with the kids. So often they don't get the opportunities as a result. And then, Callie's sister is another option. So yeah, I was thinking of that as a series. I don't know how if that will go forward or how that will work because I've started this other book, this second book in a completely different world because someone gave me a really good piece of advice that said if you write one book that's the beginning of a series, don't start the second book, start a completely different series because if the first book doesn't go, then you will not have sort of wasted the
Mm.
time on the second book.
Yeah,
So while this book, while Love Camera Action was going through the publishing,
process.
rigmarole process, I was writing another book, and it's a totally different situation. So that was great because that's now out in the world and will hopefully be published. And then as a result of that, I've started another series that I might self-publish. So you're always kind of grinding away, and it's it's, I mean, someone just asked me the other day, you must really love writing. I was like, no, I don't love writing. It's horrible. It's awful. It's like the hardest thing you can imagine.
But I don't know how to not.
But I don't know how to not. Like, there's just these stories that I keep thinking about, and it's harder to live with the story not being told than to tell it. And so I'm just like generating these things so I'm getting them out of me, if you get me.
There. So tell people where they can learn more about you.
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I've got a website. It's all under this Noel Stark author. The website is just noelstark.com. And you can get Love Camera Action at all the places on Amazon, at Barnes and Noble, if you're in Canada, in Chapters. And there's an ebook and an audiobook and all the things. So you can just get those, or you can just email me if you want, and I'll send you a copy.
Oh, well.
Maybe not that, but yeah, it's out in the world. So mhm.
Well, so I check it out. If you haven't read it, check it out. It's a really interesting look into a new world. And I can't help but believe, that you're going to be su pleasantly surprised at how authentic it feels. So go out, get the book. She said it's at Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble, Thank you for being here, and I hope you'll come back and keep talking to me as you're writing more books.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to talk to you, and it was you asked questions that a lot of people didn't, so I really appreciate that.
Well, I really love the books. I'm a
Yeah,
book person. So
yeah,
I enjoy getting into that aspect of it. Uh,
yeah.
there's always something interesting about almost anything you can pick up. And I love to just, pick your
Yeah,
brain and say, you put
yeah.
something amazing together. And I also
Mhm.
think it's a tribute to authors that, they come up with something and then they go, here, criticize it to the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
That is a terrifying thing, I do have to say. And also, you the love your love of books really comes through. Like you can really feel it kind of wafting off you how much you really love it because there's a depth to what you um think about the books that I really appreciate. And it's what's great as an author is just even talking about that, like talking about that depth and those thoughts. Sometimes I'll talk to people and there's aspects of the book that they didn't like, and I actually love hearing what they have to say about it because then we can discuss it. And I can talk about what I envisioned, but then also think about, well, why didn't that come across to them? Or like, what do they think about that? Or that the different perspectives they have. Like you're the first person who told me that they love that particular line. And I love that line. I love it.
I did,
And
because I,
yeah.
I think anytime you're reading a book, you're trying to figure out who that person is. And I get that they're fictitious, but
Hmm.
they are and they're not, right? You've
Hmm.
created a person that you're calling fictitious, but you're drawing on a lot, right? You're drawing on,
Hmm.
and your experiences, and you've created somebody who's very real in your mind.
Yeah.
They
Hmm.
have their traits, they have you know who that person is, and you let us
Hmm.
in little pieces as we go.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
like that. I like when I get to something I go, ah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know what I just learned? I just learned that they did some studies on people's brains when they're listening to a story, and they're looking at the person's brain who's telling the story, and their brains literally sync up. The
That's
firing of the brain,
interesting.
how it fires, they sync up. And it's sort of what they think, why they think this happens is because people, when they read books or they listen to stories, they're experiencing what the character is also experiencing. And that's why we love stories because we're allowed to experience these things with us in a safe space, right? We're not being
Sure.
threatened in any place, but we're allowed to vicariously live through these people. So I thought that was really interesting that our brains just sync up with the
I
person who's
love
telling
that.
it. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
is neat.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
So
What
you were
was
syncing up with Callie. You were
I was
syncing up with
thinking of?
Callie with that book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that like I like to get immersed in a world that's created by somebody else. I enjoy that a lot. I tell the
Mm-hmm.
story in the podcast all the time, so people are tired of hearing it. But I mean, I can remember the first time I went to the library, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my mother holding my hand, walking into the
Mm-hmm.
library.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
say this, like I walked through the doors and I saw the books and I was like, I knew I had found my place in the world.
Yeah. 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 I have a similar, like I used to go to the library on my own when my dad was working, and I would go to the library and it was like my church, like it was this place that was just so full of different stories. And I think, people who really love books or just stories in general, they do get immersed in it. And there's a reason why people say that readers are more empathetic because you're experiencing all these things and you're just desperate to experience the next thing when the book is closed. Like the amount of book hangovers I have had and the sadnesses I have felt because that book is over. you
Indeed.
know, is so immense. And so I think that's a really interesting thing just for our souls and our minds.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you went over with me a little bit. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry I went over too. You were
No,
fun to
no,
talk
it's
to,
my
so
fault. I have a way of, I get the authors on and I just don't shut up. But I respect your time and I appreciate enormously that you stayed after
Yeah.
with me.
No,
Uh,
of course. It was a lot of fun to talk to you. I really appreciated it.
and please keep coming back.
I will, for sure. Thank you.
I'll put the links up. I'm going to close the podcast. Have a great day, everybody.